Welcome, everyone. Today is October 7th, 2019. The 44th meeting of the 23rd Council will come to order. All councilors are present this evening. Councilor Davis should be arriving shortly. Next item is we have a moment of silence with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Betton. Thank you, everyone. Civic Plaza parking passes are provided for members of the public. You can obtain a parking pass from council staff at the sign-up table. The council will take a break at approximately 7 p.m. this evening if needed. We want tonight's proceedings to be as civil and respectful as possible. Please do not make any personal attacks, and please no applause or other outbursts during the meeting. The meeting will go a lot smoother if we are respectful of one another. So next item we have is proclamations and presentation. We have a proclamation for the Hispanic Heritage Month. Do we have anyone here who is going to be accepting that proclamation? If you can make it up to the podium. Thank you. And before we begin reading it, I think Councilor Borrego and, if you don't mind, Councilor Sanchez and Borrego, if you'd read the entire proclamation for me. Can you state your names?
Sure. Amanda Armenta.
And Dara Mendoza with the Hispanic Heritage Committee.
Okay, welcome. So, who's starting?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Whereas on August 17th, 1988, Congress passed Public Law 100-402 designating September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month, and whereas the observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon B. Johnson, and on August 17, 1988, was expanded by President Ronald Reagan to a 30-day period, and whereas the objective of Hispanic Heritage Month is to celebrate the contributions of American citizens whose ancestors originated from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America, and to highlight the service and contributions they have made to the history of our nation.
And whereas the Hispanic population of the United States has, as of July the 1st, 2018, makes people of Hispanic origin the nation's largest ethnic and racial minority, with a constituted 18.3% of the nation's total population. And whereas the participation of Hispanics in today's economy has become vital to the economic growth of our nation, as the purchasing power of the Hispanic population is expected to top $1.9 trillion by the year 2023, according to Nelson, a global data analysis company. And whereas the state of New Mexico and the city of Albuquerque host a number of events celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month, and whereas the city of Albuquerque has now 3 Hispanics in elected leadership positions, 2 of which are women, be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby proclaims September 15th through the October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourages all citizens to join us in celebrating the 2019 Hispanic Heritage Month theme, Hispanic American, a Hispanic history of serving our nation.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. I know usually Irma and Jennifer accept the proclamation, so it's nice to see that more people are getting engaged in the Hispanic Heritage Month. Did you want to share a few words?
Just briefly, we wanted to thank you, Madam President, and really all members of the council. You guys have provided continued support so that we can do this work in the community. One is traveling and one is under the weather, so thank you for allowing us to be here to represent on their behalf.
Thank you. Did you want to make a comment?
And just for those that don't know, the Hispanic Heritage Committee is a committee composed of volunteers from the city of Albuquerque as well as the state across, and we all work very diligently to promote, preserve, and celebrate our Hispanic and Latino heritage and culture here in the state. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. If you want to come up and receive your proclamation. Next, we have a proclamation from Councilor Borrego and Davis. If the folks from community schools could come up to receive to accept the proclamation. Do you want to read this? Because he's not here.
Okay, I guess Counselor Davis is not here right now, so I will read the entire proclamation. Whereas community schools focus on the integration of academics, health, and social services and engagement and development of youth, family, and community as a strategy to improve student learning and facilitate stronger families and healthier communities. And whereas ABC Community Schools Partnership is led by representatives of Albuquerque Public Schools, Bernalillo County, and the City of Albuquerque, Albuquerque Business Education Compact, United Way of Central New Mexico, and New Mexico Community Foundation. And whereas ABC School Community School Partnership is joining the Coalition for Community Schools to celebrate and lift up community school coordinators across the country. And whereas community school coordinators are key to successful community schools, creating, strengthening, and maintaining the bridge between schools and their communities. And whereas community school coordinators facilitate and provide leadership for the collaborative process and development of a continuum of services for children, families, and community members within a school neighborhood. And whereas the ABC Community School Partnership Network has 33 community school coordinators who work diligently to create and manage the partnerships that empower all of our students to learn and our communities to thrive. Be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby recognizes the contributions of ABC Community Schools and community school coordinators, including Cindy Smith, Kathy Duran, Melissa Milligan, Diana Valenzuela, Kimberly Obregon, Irene Camarillo, Andy Brayman, Pam Campos, Monique Mills, Alma Arango, Beatriz Valencia Riano, Tessa Snyder, Rochelle Ford, Anna Margarita Otero, Peggy Jugmahanshing, Stephanie Pearson, Erica Apodaca, Melanie Lewis, Sergio Schwartz, Jessica Dinsmore, Silvina Teo, Athena Zamora, Maria T. Marquez, Sartino Hernandez, Bernie Candelaria, Cynthia Jimenez, Alicia Castillo, Jason Cordova, Alina Pochabowski, Jess Selby, Reina Juarez, Nicole Dominguez Chavez, for their work to advance the health and achievements of Albuquerque students, their families, and their communities. And I hope I didn't destroy anyone's name. Would you like to say something tonight, Danette?
Thank you.
And introduce yourself, please.
I'm Danette Townsend. I'm the Executive Director of the ABC Community School Partnership. And Madam Chair, members of the council, we just want to say, we know you have a packed agenda, but the unwavering support of the city of Albuquerque to the ABC Community School Partnership, as well as the growth of community schools, very much due to the investment of the city in the work. We are greatly, greatly appreciative of that. And as you can see, I know, Councilor Pena has been involved in for a very long time, and we had very few schools like 10 years ago, and now we're at 33, almost 34 right now. So thank you very much. I'd also like to say these are a few of the coordinators that could make it tonight. A lot of them have events at their schools that they're at. So they came to represent for their network, as well as Brian Garcia from Albuquerque Public Schools and Jeff Anderson from the ABC team. We have Beatriz Valencia, Rochelle Ford, and Irene, and I don't know your last name. Camarillo. Sorry, she's brand new. She started like a month ago. But they're here, and thank you. Thank you very much for your continued support.
Madam President, I believe that
Yes.
Councilor Gibson also has proclamation for ABC schools. Did you want
you
to
have-
present that tonight?
No, that will be read at the meeting
Oh,
where it belongs.
Okay. Thank you so much for all coming forward, and I guess at this point, we can have them.
Well, Counselor
Come on.
Sanchez had a question first.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I was with Congresswoman Deb Holland about a month ago at West Mesa High School, where we saw the partnership with the principal and the students and the teachers, and also the members of a community school, and the work that they were doing at West Mesa High School. That was incredible, and I want to thank your team for the work that you guys have done in bringing community schools throughout a lot of the West Side District. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. If you guys want to come up and receive your proclamation. Okay. Counselor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say I'm really very pleased that the three coordinators that we have here with us tonight are all from District 7, and I know two of the three of them really well, so thank you for coming.
Chief.
Thank you. So we have a presentation from Michelle Mullen regarding the Route 66 Visitor Center. And I just want to say, although it's on the agenda this evening, it happens to be a total coincidence. They were in the process of outlining and dating all their public meetings, and it happened to be fall on this one. So I don't know if I see Michelle or Antonio in the audience anywhere? Oh, there you. I'm blind. I can't see but 5 feet in front of me, so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, good evening, councilors and community members. Thanks for putting us on the agenda. I want to say that it's hard for us to condense 9 months of hard work and investigation into a 5 to 10 minute presentation, but we're going to try our hardest. Please also keep in mind this is schematic design, so not all the details have been hashed through. This is just a stop in the process, a good time to present. So the presentation is going to be a quick history of the project. We're going to point out the site, and then some of the functions that are going to be part of the site and the building for the visitor center. we'll wrap up with a quick 3-minute video. I think their slides, if this goes well, they're all going to be on the monitors up here. Okay. So for those of you who might not know, after a decade or so of community involvement and discussion, Bernalillo County issued a request for design services for a Route 66 Visitor Center about 2 years ago in 2017. MHA submitted a proposal and was subsequently selected as the design leaders of the team. The first stage of the project was to head up a site analysis of the existing 5-acre site that the county owns on West Central, right down the hill from Atrisco Vista. It actually morphed into 2 5-acre sites, so now we're looking at about 10 acres. During that first stage of the site analysis, with our civil engineers, we examined the topography, the soils investigation, talked to the private and public utilities to see how utilities might have to be extended, and importantly worked with the DOT and other agencies to figure safe improvements to Central for access in and off the site. Also during that first stage, Mullen-Heller was assigned the task of furthering the county's programmatic requirements and creating a master plan in case all of the site elements weren't to be built at the same time and perhaps phased. The committee consisted not only of community members, but county members and city representatives. We want to note that the committee wanted to make sure that the visitor center was in line with the county's West Central Sector Development Plan. We looked to that document that was approved and adopted in 2015. The West Sector Development Plan mission statement reads, and I think that's up there, but their vision statement is that West Central Avenue, the gateway to the Albuquerque metropolitan area, will create a memorable corridor that reflects the heritage of Route 66 and celebrates the dramatic setting of the Rio Grande Valley. High quality commercial, along with some light industrial, will be the predominant land uses along West Central. All development will have appropriate landscape and screening that reinforces the overall corridor image and beauty. And it further states that the visitor center with art gallery, information center, et cetera, will provide a unique opportunity for public-private partnerships. So we as designers feel that being able to create a statement helps gain consensus when you're designing. And so during this conceptual design phase, the committee developed their own mission statement, and that reads that Bernalillo County and the City of Albuquerque collaborate to seek a community-driven private-public partnership that creates a vibrant and self-sustaining Route 66 Visitor Center that spurs on quality development. So all of our design decisions were measured against that mission statement. So during that, so that's the site up there from high above. And during the programming and master planning stage, we developed a number of conceptual layouts and helped develop a program and a preliminary budget. And it was approved in 2018 to move forward with the next stage of the design, and that would be one building. So their overall site plan shows 2 buildings, and we are now moving forward with schematic design of the first building, and a future building could be a restaurant that's right along Central Avenue that we hope creates an iconic place along West Central. So in the spring of 2019, the county actually selected an operator of this building, and then we kicked off schematic design. During subsequent meetings, presentations, and community feedback sessions, the Phase 1 building and site improvements grew and were enhanced to create a development that meets the community needs. So that's what we're going to present here today is the Phase 1 building that's about 21,000 square feet and a 2-story building. Antonio Vigil is the project architect that worked with me on this project. He's going to kind of provide a little overview of the functions within the design and the site. And then we're going to wrap up with that video.
Hello. We'll zoom into the site a little bit more, so maybe it's a little bit more legible. So, while developing the design, it was obvious that a place that told the history of Route 66 in Albuquerque was much needed. This would be sort of a starting point for visitors coming from the west. But it was also apparent that this should be a place for the Southwest community to gather and have events. So it was really a multi-use building and how we could accomplish that. So much of the building program and site amenities cater to both the casual visitor and the adjacent neighborhoods. So if you look at the site plan, the building is located towards Central on the high portion of the site. And this was done for visibility for visitors, so that, the building was apparent. Tiered parking is located south of the building to follow the natural topography. And the general statement of the entire site is to open up to the east with the dramatic views of the city and the Sandias. So there's plenty of site amenities. I'll just name a few. And you see the building there is a two-story building in the center that has a large plaza that can be used for lots of events, outdoor events, including a small outdoor amphitheater with a stage for performances. But you do enter from the parking from the south, and there's a tap room that has a patio to activate the building continuously, and a future restaurant that's on the northwest corner of the site. There'll be plenty of Route 66 amenities and history items, such as a vintage graveyard, sign graveyard, displaying some of the lost signs we've had in our central corridor. Yeah, it goes south. As I mentioned, the parking lot was designed to follow the natural topography and potentially used to be a drive-in movie theater. So trying to capitalize on something that was a regular programmatic element, but how it can be used by the community for potentially markets and car shows and things of that nature. The two-story building, is obviously anchored by a Route 66 visitor center, which would have car displays, exhibits, about Albuquerque and Route 66. But it also have a big lobby area for traveling art exhibits. As I mentioned, a tap room in the orange and support and administrative spaces. And up on the second floor, there's an event space center that can be rented out for lots of different types of events, such as weddings. That would have a full-service kitchen and a large balcony that overlooked this large East Plaza with a great mountain view. Yeah, and we'll go ahead and show the animation really fast. It's a walkthrough of the building. The design of the West Central Route 66 Visitor Center seeks to create a vibrant structure that speaks to the Route 66 era, but is also grounded in the local Southwest aesthetic, all while expressing itself to the wonderful views of our city. The animation started out coming from Central. This would be coming down 136th Street, which would be a new road. As you can see there, the east-facing plaza with the performance stage. So the building is oriented so everything faces towards the view, including the museum. It's set up 5 feet above the entry drop-off, so it's has a big statement, And it's obviously anchored by this large canopy to give shade for outdoor events and make that transitional space into the building.
The design includes a lot of plaza space for markets, outside vendors, possible food trucks when we have outdoor events and movie theater night. the main entrance, you walk into the information desk that would have lots of information about the city and other places and the history of Albuquerque and Route 66. The first floor has the permanent exhibit space, and then the large gallery space could accommodate traveling exhibits or special events. You're kind of walking through that gallery space there, looking back towards the south. Then we're going to go outside here in the model. We're trying to make the design as attractive and sort of a beacon both during the day and at night for visitors coming along I-40, heading east into our city as they come over the hill and see the bright lights of Albuquerque. That blue structure will provide signage and be sort of a visitor's welcoming statement. This is the plaza area looking back at the building. We wanted to illustrate how it could be a beacon at night. There will be neon signs that are reminiscent of Route 66. The building's trying to be forward-thinking as well as reminiscent of the Mother Road during its heyday. And as you can see, taking advantage of the sites up there at the top of the mesa are very integral to making this a very special place that we'd like to think, and the committee would like to think, rivals a trip to the Crest or a visit to El Pinto, if you will, during special events like Balloon Fiesta. So that's the end of schematic design.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
guys
we-
have done a phenomenal job.
Thanks for putting us on the agenda. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So the next item, any questions? No? The next item is a presentation from CNM Samantha Sengel, VP of Advancement and Enrollment Strategy regarding CNM's community impact, their strategic plan, and upcoming bond election.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. Thank you for just a couple minutes. I promise all of those topics would take far more than 5 minutes, so I will zero in on the CNM bond election that will be sharing the ballot with the city questions this November 5th. I have handouts. I don't know if, thank you very much. And I have plenty of handouts for the community as well, anyone that's interested. As you all are fully aware, CNM has a question on the November 5th election ballot. This is an incredible time at CNM right now as we are in a time of truly thinking about how we respond to the workforce needs of our community. As you all know, in our community, we have a huge need for individuals within all of the skilled trades and other technology areas. And CNM has continued to step up into that focus on providing those skills. Our bond question this November is a no tax rate increase question to continue our $84 million bond that we currently have that the voters approved 4 years ago. Our intent is to focus in on two really major areas. How we can, our largest project is how we can reinvest in our trades and technologies lab spaces. As the world is evolving and our community is changing, we still have all of the need we have for building that workforce, for building out our infrastructure. And as we talk about enrollment at the colleges is continue. We have about 23,000 students registered and enrolled in classes this fall. And it turns out if you don't really want your welder to have learned all of that online, you want to make sure that when a welder has gone through the program, he's welded a seam and you know that the steel building is going to stand up at the end. And it's critical for us to continue in these pathways. So our largest project in the bond campaign, in this bond package, is for us to rethink all of our trades and technologies classrooms across our district. Those buildings have reached the end of their life cycle on main campus, and it's an opportunity for us to truly invest across all of our campuses to ensure that students have the opportunity to access those skills. The other is that legislation this last session provided us the opportunity to use bond funds to support our ed tech notes, which is a huge need for us to invest in technology at CNM. As we look at serving close to 30,000 people each year, that is our non-credit and credit students, one of the biggest areas of demand we have is to provide the highest technology and skills, highest technology so that they can support their skills growth and their growth. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but I wanted to ensure that you all had the opportunity to hear the facts related to the C&M bond question on the ballot for November 5th.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Important
Thank you all
election.
very much.
So next item we have is economic development discussion. I think we're going to defer that till the next meeting. Ms. Jaramillo, thank you. Next item, 5, administration question and answer period. Councilors, are there any questions for the administration? Councilor Sanchez?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I had asked the question at the last meeting to give us an update on the specialized police force units and the number of police officers working like with crimes against children, the gang unit. Do we have an update on that?
Madam President, Councilor Sanchez, my apologies. I didn't bring that with me today. I'll make sure to send it to you by email, and also we can present at the next meeting.
Okay, that is not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Borrego?
Thank you, Madam President. So Rita, I had asked also at the last meeting to have an update on crime statistics, and I spoke to Isaac earlier before this meeting, and I guess that's not going to happen tonight.
Council President Pena, Councilor Borrego, I think given the length of tonight's agenda and the fact that public comment is maxed out, we were thinking maybe at the next meeting would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the journal. Councilor Borrego?
I move approval of the September 18th journal.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now on item 7, communication and introductions. Are there any changes to the letter of introduction? Seeing none, Councilor Borrego?
Thank you, Madam President. I move approval of the letter of introduction.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 8, reports of committee. Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Madam President. The Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee met on Wednesday, September 25th, 2019, and reports out the following items. In the matter of R-190 and R-191, that they be without recommendation. I make a motion to accept the committee reports.
There's a motion and a second to accept the committee report. All those in favor? Say yes.
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 Opposed, no? No. So I guess that fails. And that was, if everyone can raise your hand, all those in favor say yes. And raise your hand? No? Raise your hand.
Wait a minute, I said yes.
Okay, next.
Madam President?
I don't know who went first, so ladies first, okay. Councilor Jones.
I'd like to make a motion to reject the LUPS committee reports for R-190 and R-191.
There's a motion and a second to reject the reports of R-190 and 91. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no?
No.
Motion passes. So Councilor Winter.
Thank you, Madam President. And just for the audience, this was, does someone want to explain what the bill was that we just did not accept the committee report on?
Thank you, Madam President, Councilors. These bills are 190 dealt with resurrecting policies from the previously rescinded 51 sector plans that were rescinded as part of the ABC comp plan update and the IDO process. And R191 dealt with bringing back the sector plans for some parts of the city, which would have included policies, goals, and regulations to be enforced as law once more.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Councilor Winter.
Thank you, Madam President. And I think one of the issues is if we tried to intermingle the IDO with sector plans, it would be creating havoc for the city. Now, I did not vote for the IDO in the very beginning, but at this point, we spent years and years developing it. And I think what we need to do, I think there's some issues with the neighborhoods because they feel there's a perception out there they're not getting the protections and the processes, appeal processes that the sector plans gave them. And so what I think Councilor Pena and myself are looking at, and I don't know if we need to do a resolution, is to open the IDO up and have meetings so that neighborhoods and even some developers too, if they have issues, can come and give us the input of why they don't think they have the protections that they did with sector plans. And collect that information, and I'm hoping that planning will be part of that, city council staff will be part of that, and then we can take, whether it's 5 meetings or 6 meetings, that we can take that information and bring it back to council and discuss, and then councilors will be able to take that information and provide whatever is presented that makes sense, and that we can move the IDO along and make it better than what it is. So that's my proposal of why that I think this is a better way to go.
Any other comments?
Madam President? I want to clarify just really quickly for people that are observing that the effect of the council's vote to reject that committee report means that both of those bills fail, and they are finally disposed of, and they will not be back before council, and they have failed as a result of the council's rejection of the committee report.
That is correct. Councilor Benton.
Yeah, just with regard to procedurally, with regard to where we are now, I wanted to ask, I mean, the action has been taken, and I'm interested in what Councilor Winters and Pena have in mind, but my vote was based on R190 because there were 2 bills here in this committee report. I do support R190 in that I believe strongly, my mind is open on both, but 190 I think had some value in that currently we basically have a largely empty chapter with regard to policies that used to be in the sector plan. Not regulations, not land use regulations, but rather policies that were within those plans. My understanding was that could do no harm whatsoever. I understand the legal concerns, which I would want to ask Mr. Melendres to just speak on briefly with R191, but I just wanted to make clear with regard to my vote. I think we do, I support something along the lines of what you're talking about, in that at least in the interim, while we're going through the community planning area processes, that policies from the sector plan, policy only, not regulatory confusion or anything like that, that might be worthwhile. So I'm interested in that, and the vote has been taken, but I just wanted to ask Mr. Melendres briefly, because I did ask him, and of course there was, we were on track to be having a fiscal analysis of both bills, but the one I was very interested in was 191, and also a legal analysis of 191. That would have entailed, according to my discussions with Mr. Melendres, potentially hundreds or more, maybe over 1,000 zone changes.
Madam President, Councilor Benton, in the process leading up to the adoption of the IDO and the update of the comprehensive plan, the existing sector plans and all their various zoning designations were evaluated, and there were hundreds of those zoning designations unique to small numbers of properties and small groups across the city. And when zoning is done in that fashion, the city is obligated to heightened procedural requirements and heightened substantive requirements with respect to the way that they make those decisions. And so that's a very serious legal process that the city takes on, and that the council cannot do its business as usual in because of the rights and obligations that we owe to property owners under New Mexico law. So those issues were implicated with R191 as it was being proposed and set forth.
And Madam President, and Mr. Melendres, with the process for creation of an IDO legislatively, as a matter of citywide policy, made these changes, but this would be different. if we were to have gone through the process.
Madam President,
described in
Councilor
191.
Benton, that's exactly right. The IDO being a citywide revamp of the land use policy for the city is a different process as compared to dealing with one-off zoning determinations that are specifically tailored to individual properties. And when the sector plan zoning was implemented over the past 30 years, when the sector plans were being developed, those were implemented through a quasi-judicial process that had those heightened procedural protections. And so in order to bring those back, that would have needed to happen once more. And that is distinct from the broader legislative process that the IDO constituted.
So Madam Chair, in that case, yeah, we would have been looking at individual properties, not batches of property.
Madam President, Councilor Benton, it would have likely have been batches. However, even to the extent that the city is looking at smaller batches of property, that implicates that same level of process. And the city has historically been cautious, and probably wisely so, in dealing with that. And so even batches of maybe a dozen properties have been treated that way historically, just in order to make sure that all of the boxes are being checked with procedurally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would just say that speaking of checking boxes and so forth, I am sympathetic to some of the concerns raised in the community about sector plans, in that some of the sector plans were modern, very forward-looking sector plans. There seems to be a perception out there that much was lost of those. I don't know whether that's true or not. Pretty much what my understanding is, we took the very best from the most modern sector plans and implemented them largely either in the IDO or within community protection areas that are within the IDO, and that's a whole process that's available to us in the community planning area processes as well. So I am sympathetic to both sides of the argument. I do think that it may be worthwhile for the credibility of everything going forward to do the kind of analysis that I think I heard you describing, Councilor Winter, and to ensure that the best of these plans and the parts that were communities, individual neighborhoods were most attached to, if there was any protection missed, I don't think, if there were, then I don't think it was intentional, but if anything was missed, that we need to make sure we recover it.
Councilor Harris, followed by Councilor Jones.
Thank you, and I just have a procedural question. It seems to me there's a missing step because we rejected two, but don't we still have to accept the report with regard to the other issues?
Madam President, Councilor Harris, there was a special LUPS meeting to deal specifically with those two bills, and so the motion made rejected both of those two bills. There are no other bills to be dealt with out of that LUPS meeting.
Okay, I got it. That makes sense. All right.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. And for everyone who seems a little bit confused about this, the process is still in the IDO, that individuals, people may bring their properties before the process to make this happen. The IDO is a living document, and as is the comprehensive plan. And we are allowed, we will be, and you, the property owners, will be allowed to come forward and work with planning, with council planning, with city planning, and work out issues that we find, especially considering that development changes, homes change, communities change. The goal is to continue per the initial IDO plans, to let every property owner have a say, come in and see if they qualify for a zone or a kind of a change that will fit within the overall scheme of the IDO. So this does not mean that it's one and done, and you don't get an opportunity to come in and discuss with planning things that you would like to see different on your property. So please feel free to come in and do that. The process is in place, and we're happy to work with everyone who has a property that they would like to look at a little differently. So thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam President. I voted against the original IDO because I felt that the sector plans needed a little more time and the process needed more work. But there was a lot of work put into these plans, millions of dollars and probably 4 years of planning. And there still is a process in place where the community can come back if they're concerned about the sector plan and the historical values of our districts that are in the sector plan, and come back and work with the council. But I do like Councilor Winter's idea of, having community meetings where we can come back and engage in those meetings. So I think it's important that the public needs to be involved in this process. And there is an involvement through the IDO where there is a meeting of every development that takes place where the developers go out and they meet with the public before the development even takes place. But if there needs to be more involvement, I think it's important that we do it, and we need to be inclusive in assuring that the community feels like they're involved.
Thank you. Councilor Borrego?
Yeah, Councilor Winter, thank you for bringing up that issue, because I actually have started meeting individually with some staff folks to talk about the sector plans and what element may or may not have been lost in the transition. And so I've asked some of the staff to go back and do some critical thinking, because I was involved in writing some of those sector plans. And I understand the process that it took to reach sort of adoption of a lot of those sector plans. And, there needs to be some, what I've understood from neighborhood and developers and more neighborhood is that they felt like there was something that they lost in the transition. And so looking back and trying to determine what that, because each of those sector plans is very different and very unique. So it's not like each sector plan will come up with one thing that maybe, addresses all of the sector plans. It may be, in fact, that each of those sector plans have something different and unique to offer. And how do we come back and sort of incorporate it? And it may not only be through policy, it may be through regulation, but it also may be through, preservation and character of neighborhoods, and looking to determine, as we move forward with the community identity plans, how do we incorporate the heart of each of those areas? Because the Northeast Heights is not like the downtown, and the downtown is not like the West Side. And so you start looking at what is unique to each of those communities. And it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think that as a community, we need to consider that there has to be a balance. And that balance is not just, developer-driven or neighborhood-driven. It's something that is very sensitive to preserving each of those unique identities for each of those communities. So I just wanted to let you all know that I've actually already started working on this process.
Thank you. Councilor Benton?
Yes, just quickly, all good comments and so forth, and I don't disagree with any of them. However, what I am somewhat concerned about is the community planning area process that was laid out. I wanted to ask Mr. Melendres and perhaps planning staff if they want to weigh in. This is an important promise within the IDO that we create these community planning areas. Separately, I've already introduced some character protection changes within my district. But so there are those two tools built into the IDO, along with the zone changes that Mr. Melendres was describing. But I just want to put it out there, whether anybody needs to comment or chooses to or not, that I would hate to see the CPA process slowed down while we chew on past decisions and whether we miss something. The CPA process should be the place where we determine that. It should be part of that same process, but is that correct, Mr. Moore?
Madam President, Councilor Benton, that is correct, and the Planning Department is gearing up to begin that CPA process. There are 12 community planning areas. designated within the comprehensive plan. The concept being that a systematic planning process will unfold over a 5-year period for updates to the comprehensive plan that look at the unique characteristics of various sub-areas of the community. And that process will start with evaluating the policies of any applicable sector plans that existed within those areas. Some of those policies may be 30 years old, some of them may be 5 years old, just the way that the sector plans laid out over time. But those will be a starting point to come back to the community to identify whether or not those policies are appropriate for application within those community planning areas or more broadly, or whether conditions have changed within those areas in a way that would necessitate different policies. The nice aspect of that is that it brings back a component of the sector plans which recognizes the uniqueness of various sub-areas of the city, but it's in a more manageable package that the planning department could administer during regular cycles. One of the issues with the sector plans was that as more developed, several had never been updated, and so the comp plan as updated today contemplates that the CPAs will get an equal amount of attention in a 5-year cycle so that the city stays on top of the unique needs of various areas.
Thank you. And again, Madam President, I just, my concern would only be that we keep the ball rolling with regard to what has been laid out, and I don't think that's contradictory in any way to what Councilor Winter and Councilor Pena were describing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Betton. And I will just add my 2 cents. I really appreciate talking with Councilor Winter about how we look at this moving forward. The reason, you know, when Councilor Betton was moving this forward, I actually asked for my name to be on it because I really didn't support the sector plans being removed. I mean, we had over 60-plus sector plans in the city. So when we were going through the whole IDO process, you know, I wanted to ensure that we at least, and I put an amendment forward that was passed by this council that actually allowed them to be, all those sector plans to be used as a reference point. But one of the things that I think that we lost in this is kind of much like, I hate to go back to the visitor center, you know, but I've said this before, we have the longest stretch of the historic Route 66 in the nation, and we really haven't capitalized on that as a city. I think that we could collaborate and work together across districts to make sure that we get grants and to really push on that. There's a whole economic analysis about like $1 trillion that's being $1 billion being put into the economy with this tourist attraction of the Route 66. But then when we look at all our historic neighborhoods, like I said, there's 60-plus sector plans. Some of them are sector plans or planning documents, but I think some of them are unique to our community because we put the community members put a lot of work and effort into them. And when they looked at them, you know, I think they began to be more than planning documents for us. They were actually tools that we were used as how we wanted to see our community, our communities moving into the future, like Martinez Down or Barelas or Atrisco. You know, we have some real assets that we could actually make some investment as leaders, as developers in these communities, whereas if you look at like New York, they have Little Italy, and if you look at San Francisco, there's Chinatown. There's communities that still exist within, you know, especially in San Francisco, there was just an article talking about how it's just kind of really disenfranchised people, and it's really gentrified and moved everybody from the existing communities out and made it just practically, you know, unable to live there. So I think we have these assets in our community that we could really look at, and how do we preserve those and our history and our culture. And these communities predate the city of Albuquerque. So I look forward to the conversation and the dialogue about that. So with that, we will move on to deferrals and withdrawals. Councilors, are there any deferrals or withdrawals at this time? Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me grab my thing. Regarding 072, amending section 1420 of the dilapidated commercial building and properties ordinance, I move a deferral until November 4th.
There's a motion and a second for deferral. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilor Betton.
Thank you, Madam President. On O80, authorizing the issuance of sale of the City of Albuquerque taxable industrial revenue bond, Series 2019, the Arrive Albuquerque Hotel Project. I move deferral until October 21st.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor for a deferral until October 21st, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. I have one other deferral, and that's R-178, amending the adopted capital implementation program of the City of Albuquerque by supplementing current appropriations for the Arenal Crestview Bluff space acquisition. I move a deferral for 30 days. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Now we are on, oh, I'm sorry. I just was looking for mine and I lost my
Madam President.
space. Councilor Borrego.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda, but before we do that.
As amended, I
As
guess.
amended. But before we do that, are there any individuals here tonight that are actually being appointed to serve on a board or a commission? If there is, could you please stand up? We have one gentleman there in the back. Well, we just want to thank you for your willingness to serve. So all those in favor of the consent agenda as amended, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is 10, general public comments. There will be a 2-minute time limit. The light on the podium will be green for the first minute and a half, then the light will turn yellow, and the bell will ring, indicating you have 30 seconds remaining to wrap up your comments. At 2 minutes, the light will turn red and ring to indicate that your time is up. Mr. Melendez or Ms. Yara, if you could just let folks know, I know there's a lot of talk about, there's not sufficient room in the agenda, so if you can kind of let everyone in the audience know kind of what that entails.
Yes, Madam President. So the current council rule regarding public comment states that 30 people can sign up during this period. If we reach more than 30 people who want to address the council, they can either choose to speak right after all of the items at this meeting or to be first at our next meeting during public comment.
Thank you for that update. So our first person is Ms. Lynn Anderson, followed by Christopher Norcon, followed by John Garcia, followed by Don Schrader. If you could be ready to come up to the podium.
Good evening, President Pena and councilors. I guess the main thing I have to say at this point is thank you. I was here to talk about 190 and 191. There are a number of people in the audience. You guys have had an excellent discussion. You've actually mentioned a lot of my points that I was going to make tonight, so in truth, thank you. I would at least like to tell you that this came out of nowhere for our industries, and it was a very worrisome week plus, a few days, with not knowing this was even in the works. So I would like to acknowledge, we pulled together a coalition of 10 organizations literally overnight to address this because I would like to use a stronger word than worrisome, but it was not a good time in our industry. But representatives here tonight are here from NAIOP. I'm representing NAIOP, the Commercial Real Estate Development Association, GAR, the Realtors, HBA, the home builders, Carnum, the commercial realtors, Economic Forum, obviously business leaders, ABC, the Associated Builders and Contractors, ACI, the Association of Commerce and Industry, AANM, the Apartment Association, AGC, the Associated General Contractors, and the New Mexico Contracting Roofing Contractors, as well as the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to recognize them. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher?
Good evening, Madam President and councilors. My name is Chris Narkin from the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber would also like to thank the council for its actions on R190 and 191 tonight. I don't want to repeat too much of what Ms. Anderson just said, but I do want to emphasize how important the IDO's predictability is for the industry, and it's so vital to make the development and projects like those we heard about earlier this evening possible for the city. The IDO already reflects substantial time, resources, and input from all stakeholders and incorporates many of the key elements from those former sector plans, as was mentioned. We urge the council to retain all of that work and to continue to take input from all stakeholders and help keep Albuquerque more in line with other cities around the country in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, followed by Don Schrader, followed by Thomas Souther.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. My name is John Garcia, Executive Vice President of the Home Builders Association of Central New Mexico, and I'll be short because I'm only 5 foot tall. But thank you. We appreciate the council's actions tonight, and we do look forward to the opportunity to work with council staff, and the city as we move forward to try to make the best for Albuquerque. And I also want to thank Lawrence Rael for meeting with us the other day. Thank you.
Mr. Don Schrader.
David in the Bible wrote many of the Psalms. In war, David killed more people than any U.S. street gang member or anyone on death row. Never once in the Bible did David repent or ask forgiveness for his mass murder of people in other nations. Yet the Bible says David was a man after God's own heart. Sadly, many Protestant and Catholic military veterans today show no guilt, no regret for killing people in other nations. The Bible contains both evil poison and precious wisdom. The Bible says God commanded the mass murder of every man, woman, and child in Palestine. All Bible verses that support war are evil poison. The Bible's precious wisdom teaches us to love, forgive, do good to our enemies, to treat all people as we want others to treat us, to live simply, fairly, humbly. Read the Bible with extreme caution, always. Spit out its poison, take to heart its wisdom, and aim to live it. Use compassion and fairness for all people as the main test to separate the Bible's poison from its wisdom. My mother was my all-time closest friend. She was born 112 years ago today. She taught me to speak truth and to stand publicly for fairness for all people.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas Souther, followed by Dave Hale, followed by Geraldine Amato, followed by Keith Meyer.
Hello, Madam President, councilors. My name is Thomas Souther, and I am the Legislative Affairs Officer for the New Mexico Shooting Sports Association, which since 1935 has been the official affiliate in New Mexico of the National Rifle Association. I'm going to speak to the constitutionality of the City Council passing the 3 proposed firearms-related ordinances. First, New Mexico State Constitution, Article 2, Bill of Rights, Section 6, right to bear arms. No law shall abridge the right of the citizen to keep and bear arms for security and defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for other lawful purposes, but nothing herein shall be held to permit the carrying of concealed weapons. No municipality or county shall regulate in any way an incident of the right to keep and bear arms, as amended November 2nd, 1971 and November 2nd, 1986. From the New Mexico State Supreme Court, Baca versus New Mexico Department of Public Safety, June 4th, 2002, their conclusion: we determine that the legislature's delegation of authority to local governments to prohibit the carrying of concealed weapons in Section 29-18-11D violates the constitutional proscription against municipal and county regulation of an incident of the right to keep and bear arms in Article 2, Section 6 of the New Mexico Constitution. The Constitution and the New Mexico Supreme Court have both spoken very clearly on the prohibition of municipalities and counties regulating an incident of the right to keep and bear arms. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. I just want to greet Tom Souther. It's been many years since we were prototype machinists together.
Yep.
An 840 Big House. Thanks for coming.
You're
coming
welcome.
down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dave Hill, followed by Geraldine Amato.
Madam President, I'm Dave Hill, and I'm representing Carnum, the commercial real estates of Albuquerque. First of all, I want to thank you very much for your recent vote, but I want to caution you. The IDO is a different process, and there's a few rules. No, there's a lot of rules. And it has protection for both the neighborhoods and the developers. And I think that is kind of the key between the IDO. It has protection for the neighborhoods to keep the neighborhoods consistent and helps out with a lot of the sector plan development concepts. It then also brings predictability to the developers so that they can deliver a product that the neighborhoods will like. And it also has the protections for both the neighborhoods and the developer. So I caution you on trying to change the IDO. I can't tell you I like the IDO, but it is a process that we spent, I think, 3.5 years to develop, and I think we've flushed it out pretty well. And I think it does have provisions within the IDO to make changes as we go forward. So again, thank you for your vote tonight, and look forward to many other council's meetings like this.
Geraldine Amato, followed by Keith Meyer.
Good evening. Despite our worship of the federal flag at the beginning of these meetings, the Republic does not exist. And we are operating on borrowed time and borrowed money. The Federal Reserve credit script that we work with is an IOU, anything I want to give you at any given time. The purchasing power is at the will and the whim of the issuers thereof. Alan Greenspan, as a young man in 1966, published an essay called Golden Economic Freedom. One of the things he mentions in there is that government bonds are not backed by tangible wealth, only by the government's promise to pay out of future tax revenues. It's worthwhile reviewing some of the concepts he brings out that aren't discussed anymore. Our greatest resource in a time of trouble and need would be, if we had it, each other. The grand feat of social engineering by the overlords in control of the wealth of this nation, imposed against genuine community, is our separation from each other, which incrementally is enhanced with each new overlord scheme. Latest reading is, if you see something, say something. There's a city ordinance that is misapplied, in my opinion. Anyone entering or loitering in any manner on this property without conducting legitimate business shall be deemed to have trespassed and in violation of the City of Albuquerque Criminal Code 1223. I was stopped at the counterfeit food co-op over there in Nob Hill saying it's private property, we don't want you here, and if you come back, we will charge you with criminal trespass. So they were preventing me from conducting legitimate business. I went there to conduct legitimate business, and they told me I had to leave because it's private property, and they have a right to evict anyone. And this is going on in many different arenas. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Keith Meyer, followed by Jim Wibble, followed by Ian Robertson.
President Pena, councilors, my name is Keith Meyer. I'm a member of the Commercial Association of Realtors, or Carnum, here in New Mexico, and I was here tonight to ask for you to vote against bill number 190 and 191, as you've already done that. I want to say thank you for that. And I guess the only thing I would ask is that, again, as others have spoken to, we spent at least 2 years and, as I understand, over $3.5 million coming up with the comprehensive plan and the IDO, and would ask that the council be responsible for helping to protect the process. It's your planning department that came up with it. Everyone, the electorate and the communities, the neighborhood associations, and the business community have had a chance to have their input in it. And now that it's in place, we would ask that you support the process and keep everybody working through it. I hope that candidly, people will start thinking of sector plans as they think of the Atrisco land grant. It's charming, but it's in the past, and the IDO is the future. So, thank you very much.
Well, I think I have to respond to that. I mean, charming and in the past, I mean, these are communities that predate the city of Albuquerque, you know, and I really take exception to that, especially, you know, because I didn't support this moving forward because I knew it would be harmful. But I just really want to be clear that when we're talking about our historic neighborhoods, that I'm going to do what I can to make sure that the voices of those people are heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jim Wibble, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you. I'd like to also make a comment on
Please.
what was just said. I think the last statement was totally inappropriate. Our land grants, I think, are vital to the citizens of this community and this state. And it's not part of the past. It will be also part of the future, because for many, many generations, many people that were involved in land grants worked their heart and their soul out to protect their communities and their land grants. So I totally am disappointed and disgusted with your statement. Thank you.
Mr. Jim Wibble.
Good evening,
Please.
President
Thank
Pena.
you.
Good evening, President Pena, councilors. Also was here to speak about R190 and 191. I also applaud your and thank you for your action with regard to those two pieces of legislation this evening. The IDO process that we went through for a number of years, I think, was the best possible thing that we could have come up with through the planning organization. I thought they ran a very good process, had a lot of public input, 350 plus or so public meetings that I think came up with a really good solution in replacement of the 60 plus sector development plans that were obsolete when we went into that process, and specifically highlighted by the consultant that was hired by the city to remedy the issues that we had with our planning process at the time. So I applaud your efforts and actions on that. I don't think that there's any process that we've got that doesn't need improvement, and I think the IDO has at least an outline in it right now that we're going through in the first cycle to do technical amendments and other amendments to the IDO. I would encourage you to please be patient and let that process work. There can be other inputs into that process for other public forums or through the planning department, but please drive it through there. That's the only thing I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian Robinson, followed by Rafael Castellanos, followed by Rebecca Plutino.
Good evening, Council and President. I just wanted to, again, as other members of the business community, applaud the decision that you made on Ordinance 190, 191. Specifically, I think it stands for a commitment to the process that's laid out in the IDO. The IDO being something that significant amount of time and energy has been spent to create. I think what's also important that I would urge the Council to consider is that the existing process is important because it's streamlined existing neighborhoods, and I think we can still maintain the character and the beauty of the city of Albuquerque, what makes it a special place, without compromising that new process we've laid out. So thank you again for your decision tonight, and I think we all look forward to seeing the positive improvements made to the IDO through the existing process. Thanks.
Rafael Castellanos.
Madam President, City Councilors, thank you for your decision on R190 and R191. I wanted just to give you a little bit feedback on what I think about it. Bringing back the sector development plan would only hurt, not benefit the parties involved, from neighborhood associations to developers. In the past, Albuquerque and New Mexico has witnessed a decline in prosperity while other communities thrive. We now turn the page to the present. Look around you, drive around the city, and you will see the new construction, the new deals, and the new jobs. The IDO is not a perfect document or process and continues to require minor amendments as any other new ordinance or legislation. My question is, why would we add the sector development plans back in when the IDO already carries the character protection overlay, the CPOs? The CPOs are practically sector development plans. And then lastly, in addition, planners and staff can only quench when remembering back the endless stacks of paper to comb through, and also the old regulation codes that included multiple layers of conflicting rules, processes, and plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Plutino, followed by Colleen Aycock, followed by Judith Young.
Good evening, President Pena, members of the council. My name is Rebecca Plutino. I'm the general manager at the Best Western Plus Rio Grande Inn, and I'm also a member of the board of the Greater Albuquerque Hotel and Lodging Association. So I'm here tonight to ask for a deferral of O-1977 regarding the refunding and sale of revenue bonds, in part from lodger's tax. The board of the Hotel and Lodging Association in general is dismayed by the lack of communication and industry input for expenditures of lodger's tax on both infrastructure and marketing sides of the ordinance. In this particular case, it came to us as a surprise in the paper. We learned about the mayor's proposal for enhancement of infrastructure, specifically for sports tourism. What we are asking for is time to get specifics on the projects that are tied to these bonds. Without the specifics, we can't provide you with good information, recommendations, and feedback. We would like the opportunity to do this. After all, we are the stakeholders. We contribute to the lodger's tax. We collect that for the city. When lodger's tax grows, you all know that gross receipts and employment numbers go up. It's good for the city. Tourism is a bright spot for Albuquerque. I know you're well aware of that. Our group has had some very fruitful discussions with many of you and truly appreciates your time and willingness to work with us to improve the resolution that's here tonight. We just want time. We're asking for time to provide you with good feedback. The industry desires that any money expended from the Lodgers Tax Fund have the very highest rate of return. Right now, we can't tell you that we're for these projects because we don't have enough information. That's why we're requesting time. Hopefully, you'll agree with this logic and vote to defer. Thank you for your time.
Colleen Aycock, followed by Judith Young, followed by Thomas Shoemaker.
I have a letter to give you, President Pena. I'm Colleen Aycock, President Pena, City Councilors. Thank you. I just have a comment about the IDO. It totally failed us in our district because it failed to protect the only city park in the city of Albuquerque that had a pre-territorial Spanish ruin, Singing Arrow Park. The IDO did nothing to preserve that historicity, and we're putting a building almost as large as what you saw for the Route 66. I actually came to read a letter from many members of many homeowners or different homeowners associations, and we are requesting a substitute or special representative be assigned for our District 9 in Don Harris's absence. My letter to you states, "We are writing to you for help. For the past several years, we've been experiencing an absentee counselor for District 9. Not only is Don Harris frequently absent at city council meetings, sorry, this was a surprise, he is never in his office. He does not respond to email, phone calls, or letters from many of his constituents. In fact, the group Women and Associates Now, Taking Back Our Neighborhoods, was formed because Don Harris would not meet with them individually or as a group. When he did schedule a meeting, it would be 3 months out so that he would not have to address any immediate needs or concerns. Citizens in his district are very frustrated. He cancels meetings that he promises to attend. He was scheduled to meet 10 months ago with the East Gateway Coalition of all neighborhood associations. That was December of 2018. He canceled at the last minute. He told a board member that he would not answer any questions until after his second community center in Singing Arrow was built, and he's not done so since 2017. When we try to call various city departments for answers to our concerns, we're told that we must go through our city councilor. How can we do that when he won't even respond to us? We are not being represented. We're asking you to assign someone who will talk to us and who will answer our phone calls and our requests. Thank you so much, and those are our signatures.
Thank you. Councilor Benton.
Yeah, I don't need a response, but I think there's a conflation of discussion here when we say the IDO didn't protect this park or this archaeology. The previous zoning code did not protect this park nor its ideology either. So I think when we talk about that, I don't think it helps your argument, is all I'm saying, to say, well, it's a failure of the IDO. The IDO was a massive endeavor, and by its nature could only try to fix certain minimal things within the existing zoning code. So I'm not asking for a response. I'm just making a point. I'm not disagreeing with your position and so forth, but just saying that opposition to the IDO doesn't really fit with your narrative.
Thank you, ma'am. Judith Young.
Yes, Judy Young. Good evening. I would like to say that it was the counselor who has failed us in our district. I can't say that it was the IDO. I would say it is our counselor. And as a result of that, pursuant to the New Mexico State Constitution, Article 2, Section 14, a petition to convene a citizens' grand jury. Therefore, we, the undersigned, as registered voters within Bernalillo County, can call upon the district court to convene a grand jury to investigate and act on the following and the derivative issues which may arise during this impalement. The City of Albuquerque has, through the inducement of District 9 City Councilor Don Harris, failed to properly disperse and account for monies received in general from tax revenues, and particular from the U.S. federal government for the Municipal Redevelopment Agency, herein the MRA, and has failed to use the monies in accordance with required application from the U.S. government, in particular Housing and Urban Development Agency, for redevelopment of blighted areas. Monies allocated to the projects to rehabilitate a community center have not been applied and diverted to other projects and not properly accounted for. Not complying with the historical preservation requirements of the state, violating procedures required for proper project engagement, and many other legal requirements. It has failed to issue temporary housing vouchers appropriately by not conducting appropriate screening measures. It has failed to use proper accounting and auditing practices for major projects such as the Albuquerque Rapid Transit Project. It has consequently defrauded the public. And what we have experienced in the historic East Gateway entrance of Route 66 is just the opposite of what the west side of Route 66, the Balloon Fiesta. Many of the tourists are posting online that this is egregious, what is happening to the historic East Gateway, and
Thank you,
the
Ms.
entire
Young.
city
Your
of
time is up.
Albuquerque is going to
Mr.
suffer.
Thomas Shoemaker.
Good evening, City Council members. I'm Tom Shoemaker, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Los Altos Park Renovation Project. I've been an Albuquerque resident since 1974. To give you a little history, my grandfather moved to Albuquerque in 1916. Been here a little while. I started playing softball in Albuquerque in 1975, with many games over the years being played at Los Altos Park. For the last 26 years, I've worked as a city volunteer organizing the Church Summer Softball League program. I've organized and run softball tournaments for the Church League since '93 and have helped raise close to $100,000. I'm super excited about the city proposing about a $10 million plus renovation for this facility, not only for softball, but for the additional upgrades at the park. I'm here, however, to speak solely on the behalf of softball as an organizer, a player, and a coach. These renovations can not only make Los Altos a great playground for our residents, but also bring potential positive economic impact to our city. How, you ask? I heard that question. With our awesome summer and fall weather, Albuquerque could become a mecca for softball. Just last month, I played in the Senior Softball World Tournament in Las Vegas. That tournament alone brought in 600 plus teams, representing over 7,000 players. I know for me, I spent like $500 on that weekend event. Can you imagine the impact for the city of Vegas? We need that here. What's preventing us from doing the same thing? It's simple, our lack of great softball facilities. Our current challenges: small softball complexes. We have fields that have only 1 or 2 or 3 fields. Overall poor and unkept softball field conditions. Non-standard field dimensions at several facilities, including Los Altos. Inadequate field lighting. No concession areas for fans or players. Our bathroom facilities, unkept outhouses. I'd like
Thank
to
you, sir. Your time is up. Mr. Jason
Thank you.
Reed, followed by Dale Perkins, followed by Matt Wasson.
Madam President and fellow councilors, I want to read something real quick. I don't want to go over a lot of the things that other people have gone over, but there's this thing, it's called an oath. And you guys went through this at one point. And it says, I, name of oath taker, do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America and the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Mexico. I furthermore do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and sincerely perform my duties as a public servant to the people of City of Albuquerque, New Mexico, to the best of my ability, so God help me. You guys all took that oath, including Mr. Davis, Mr. Benton, and Ms. Gibson. As far as that goes, with the 3 ordinances that you guys are going to propose, I'm wondering seriously what Mr. Davis is afraid of, or Isaac Benton, or Ms. Gibson. The thing that you all need to remember is that as far as those ordinances go, the city of Albuquerque does not belong to you. It belongs to all these people here. We all have a voice, and that's what we're here to give you. So at this point, I want to give you Marbury versus Madison in 1803. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Mayberry versus Madison, 1803, every law consistent with the Constitution will have been made in pursuance of the powers granted by it. Every assertion or law repugnant to it cannot have made it pursuance of its powers. So you guys need to remember your oath. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution of New Mexico. These buildings, including parks and libraries and stuff like that, belong to the taxpayers. We have the right to take care of ourselves and defend ourselves in those situations if we have to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Perkins, followed by Matt Wasson, followed by Corral Stocklasa.
Madam Chair, thank you, and other guests here. I do appreciate the language that has been spoken here and how everyone conducted themselves. I think that it's brilliant that you guys are putting this out to committees for the gun laws that you're going to try to enact. Now, very simple. You already know, you've already talked to the lawyers of Albuquerque. You know that it's already been gone to the Supreme Court. You know the ruling. We don't need to go over that. Yes, I understand, and it hit me the other day at a party, that you're going to take and put this all off until the vote is in for your reelection, and I think it's brilliant. And you're going to say, hey, vote us back in, and we're going to get these gun laws put in where we can protect you. I think that is absolutely fantastically brilliant on your part. But I'm telling you right now, you cannot make a gun law in the city of Albuquerque. That is the state's job, and the state has been proven through the Supreme Court. I do thank you, and I do appreciate your time, your effort, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. So the next speaker, this is Dale? Are you Dale or Matt Wasson? Okay.
Good evening, Madam President, councilors. You know, as humans, we often have difficulty wrapping our minds around large numbers, like of abstracts like dollars, or that aren't in our hand, or population of people that aren't standing before us. So I like to use time, because we're mortal, to think about large numbers. So 11 million seconds is 11 and a half days. 1 million seconds. 1 billion seconds is 31.7 years, and 1 trillion seconds is 31,709 years. That's going to help us understand the numbers that I'm going to let sink in and come back to. You know, it seems like the primary focus of the Democratic Party at this time is the 2020 presidential election, and since I'm addressing the council of a majority of that party, I wish to speak to a few of your concerns. Very few people like extremists. If everyone liked them, they would not be extreme. Most of us look on in disgust at extremists like the folks from Westboro Baptist Church, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, hold about the same esteem for that political alliance known as the Squad. Voters choose moderates. Voters choose representatives who give them the most and take the least away. The more extreme you become, the fewer voters will choose you, and the concerns for your party will become a reality. Give as much as you can and take away as little as you can if you want to be reelected. Now let's go back to those large numbers. There are 327 million persons in the United States, but there are over 400 million firearms, and an estimate of 100 billion rounds of ammunition in civilian ownership. I say this with all humor to present the truth. If law-abiding firearms owners were half the problem that we are accused of being by anti-gun advocates, there would be no anti-gun advocates. Come on, guys. Leave us alone. Go after the criminals. Have a good day.
Mr. Corral, please, no applause. Mr. Corral?
Yes, good afternoon. I will just make a comment to the NRA, okay? NRA shouldn't be here at all. It's 1776. When they have a war against the British, it was mandatory to have a musket. So it should be today mandatory as the military in the Pentagon. It should be in the military, not in the public hands. Thank you for that part. My part now, okay, so NRA doesn't belong in United States on a public stage at all. Zero, zilch. Okay, my thing, what I'm trying to do, I've been living here in Albuquerque for 47 years. I'm originally from Czech Republic. And I've been having 2 successful businesses over here running. And lately, okay, some other company purchased an apartment complex where I'm living, and they took our fences down around the patios. Okay, and so we put a, for 118 people petition, which doesn't go anywhere, okay, because you see, city, as the councilors, you people over here, you know, the zoning and planning department's got a complete mess in a, basically in a law. You're not doing your job. You're just losing 2,000 votes, okay, of the, you know, people who they living. You're throwing them overboard without a second thing, okay. In fire department, here is the directly this adopted this brand new code, okay? There's a fire extinguisher not supposed to be outside at all. It's supposed to be only indoor, cannot be in a hallway for the mischief. They ain't gonna work. They've been in our building, kids done a mischief 5 times, fire department was the 5 times. See, this company is only making $600,000 a year for 6 apartment complex profit, because they know they could do that through the loophole.
Thank you. Mike Leach, followed by Patricia Stanlonis, followed by Damon, followed by Michael Reif, followed by Jennifer Simpson.
I'm Mike Leach. I'm with Carnum and SIOR, Society of Industrial Office Realtors. I just want to thank you for your vote on 190 and 191 today. And I just wanted you all to know that I personally spent hours and hours and hours meeting with planning, going through every part of the IDO, giving feedback back to the planning department. The planning department was great to work with, and I do think the IDO in the long term is going to be a good product, that a good policy for the city. And I just again want to let you all know that I appreciate your vote and that the IDO will be a good thing for this city. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Thank you. Patricia?
Hello, my name is Patricia Stanalonis.
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry, ma'am. Excuse me? Thank you.
I'm here to ask for your support in the renovation of Los Altos Park. I grew up in the neighborhood on Lomas, going to La Mesa Elementary, Monroe Junior High, and Manzano High School. I now am in Mrs. Jones' area, and I know from her campaign that she's supporting fiscal responsibility. So I want to talk bottom line, what kind of money could be made from the renovations, from the Senior Women's Softball League alone. There are currently there's 10 teams here playing ball, and tonight we're playing at Los Altos. There are different associations regarding senior women's softball. They include the U.S. Senior Softball Association, the Senior Softball USA, amateur softball, you've heard of it as ASA, ISA is the International Senior Softball. There's SPA, which is Softball Players Association, and also the Native Americans have an association, and I don't know by what name they go. These are huge tournaments that have the potential to come to Albuquerque and provide income for our city and our state. The Albuquerque complex on the west side is a baseball stadium. It's magnificent. We played national senior games out there recently, but it is not a softball field. To move the fields in, it costs $500 to $700 per field out there just to move them in to accommodate the senior ball. Our league is very active here, and we know a lot of teams. I have presented with Diane Gibson a list of 56 women's leagues, women's teams in the western region of the United States only.
Thank you. Mr. Damon, and I'm sorry, I'm not even going to attempt your last name, so.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the council. My name is Damon Kompanowski. I'm the general manager at the Sheraton Uptown Hotel. I'm also a past chair of the Lodgers Tax Board and past chair of Visit Albuquerque and the Greater Albuquerque Hotel and Lodging Association. I would like to thank each of you for your help and consideration on how we use Lodgers tax dollars. The ordinance speaks to a minimum of 50% collected goes to promoting and marketing our city. The remaining goes to brick and mortar. We know there's a great ROI on marketing our city, so I would support using more than that 50% to promote our great city. When using the dollars for bricks and mortar, these dollars should be used for tourist-related facilities. So for example, which the lady before me was just speaking, for when we're building softball fields, that's definitely something that should be supported, and especially if we're bringing teams into town. It should not just be a community fields. So I would definitely suggest that there's some type of restriction on how we book those fields, that within 3 months, we would let community use those fields, but 3 months out, we should reserve those fields for regional tournaments so we can bring tournaments to here to create more Lodgers tax dollars. I have some concerns with the current methodology of how the dollars are spent. We are a $2 billion industry with over 6.2 million visitors. We have seen increases in jobs, occupancy, ADR, Lodgers tax, meetings, and sporting events. This is something we should be proud of. I would like to add, every time we sell 15 room nights, we create an 8-hour shift for a housekeeper. That's something we should all think about, because other jobs come in with that too, such as our cooks, engineers, and just all the other hospitality employees that we have. In Albuquerque, there's 44,000 hospitality workers. Please know that tourism is a bright spot in Albuquerque. Let's continue to grow this industry. This year, we're up 11%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Rife, followed by Jennifer Simpson, followed by Joseph Aguirre, followed by Nancy Montaño. And if your name was called, if you can make your way to the front and find a seat, that way we can move along more quickly. So Michael Rife's not here. Jennifer Simpson?
Thank you for taking comments. I'm here from the University Heights Association. I'm here to speak about the safety of lead and coal. It has been a persistent problem for many years, I know. A recent analysis shows that the number of accidents on lead and coal through University Heights and Nob Hill is 50% more than through other streets like ours. That is a big concern. I suspect many of you consider the accidents on lead and coal to be a problem that only affects those of us who live on lead and coal. But that is not true. These accidents take up valuable resources like fire trucks and ambulances, not to mention police. A case in point. At approximately 11 p.m. on May 4th, a man tried to enter my home through the front door. He did not respond to my yelling, "Go away," nor to my threats to call the police, and so I dialed 911. The operator assured me that they were dispatching police, and moments after hanging up the phone, a huge accident took place right at the corner of Cole and Cornell where I live. Many police showed up, 4 or 5 cars, 2 fire trucks, 2 ambulances, and nobody checked on me. The driver in one car landed in the parking lot across the street, and the other driver fled the scene, probably an alcoholic. The scene was active for at least an hour, and all those resources were spent hanging out there during that hour. None of those police were there for me, nor for anyone else in the city. What a waste of precious resources for a problem that has been partially caused by the expectation that a residential street serve as a principal arterial moving cars through town. Your inattention to this has been shameful. Thank you.
Councilor Harris.
Excuse me, ma'am?
Yes?
So what happened? Were you okay?
Fortunately, I did not die, as you see.
I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah,
I can tell.
police have responded appropriately, and the call was
Can you come up?
Sorry.
Yeah.
The call was not allocated correctly. They gave it a low priority, and it should have been given a high priority. I did elevate the matter, and they have assured me that they have talked to the operator and retrained him and used this phone call to illustrate to others how to handle a 911 calls, not the way this operator did. So,
Okay.
but it was a very unnerving experience, and just to illustrate that when police are elsewhere taking care of accidents that don't need to be happening, they're not there for any of you.
Okay. Thanks so much for coming down. Sure was difficult.
Thank you. Mr. Aguirre, followed by Nancy Montaño, followed by Jerry Gallegos, followed by Michelle Luna.
Madam President, councilors, I'm speaking for the University Heights Association and for Neighbors Along Lead and Coal. On August 19th, we wrote councilors Davis, Benton, and Pena about a cluster of 5 rollover crashes east of Carlisle. This cluster stands out against a background of countless crashes into homes all along lead coal, block after block, week after week. We asked for emergency action. You didn't answer. On August 27th, another rollover in the same area. We wrote you on September the 4th with concern about the narrow scope of administration's tentative plan for lead coal. We asked that you endorse our more comprehensive recommendations. You didn't answer. Since then, more crashes, 3 in my area just this past weekend. Key elements of this problem, this forever problem. First, lead coal from Washington to Yale are substandard, recklessly unsafe principal arterials. The right-of-way is inadequate, the setbacks are insufficient, and intersections are too closely spaced and too close to curves and slopes. Second, the city spent $32 million, $25 million of federal money to make lead coal safer in our area. Lead coal redesign in our area is a failure. Why? Because the city replaced a substandard roadway with a substandard roadway. Third, the ART traffic plan as predicted by the community is causing significantly increased traffic and increased crashes on lead coal. Fourth, the city hid the lead coal problem from the FDA instead of tackling it as part of ART planning. This is a big problem. Lives are at stake, and the credibility of the city and of Mr. Cog are at stake. What do we want? An emergency plan. Endorse our recommendation for a road safety audit. It is time for a third-party, unbiased, deep dive look at this problem. Next, endorse our recommendation for an interagency working group. This is not a City of Albuquerque problem. It is City, Mr. Cog, and the State of New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Benton.
Mr. Aguirre, you and I worked on the previous Lead Coal Task Force.
Yes.
Prior to redistricting. I don't represent your neighborhood anymore. But I guess part of the concern I have is lead and coal continue west of Yale, and it seems like the recommendations seem to be limited to east of Yale. Is that
Yes,
right?
And the roadway conditions that I described, the right-of-way and the setbacks and the spacing of intersections all pertain to that section in question.
Only east of-
Washington to Yale is the hot spot of the collisions that my colleague and I and our neighbors all across that corridor are experiencing.
Okay.
The five rollovers at that hot spot of coal, lead, Solano are understandable to any person that stands out on those intersections and appreciates the sightline issues when you have narrow roadways and intersections in close proximity to a hill. There is no visibility when the car is coming at you at 50 miles an hour or 60 or 70 off of Carline. A layperson can easily appreciate these problems.
Thank you. Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just wanted to respond to Mr. Aguirre and request about his emails. And I went back and pulled up a couple I know we've responded to. And Mr. Aguirre, I do agree with you, as you know, that we need an audit, a safety audit of that corridor. And you'll remember that, excuse me, in the end of 2016, and before the new mayor came into office, my office conducted a traffic study there that showed that we met the qualifications for additional work. But I do want to remind the neighborhood association that the task force voted to reject the city council's offer at the time for an independent audit, and instead to work with the administration to use DMD and the administration's authority to do that. And so what I do know is I know that we got the report from the administration that has their recommendations of what they'd like to do. And so I want to encourage you, and not that we're not here to support that, but those are decisions that have to be made with the mayor's office, with the mayor's funding and the mayor's departments. And so if there's a specific request that they're not following up on, we do want to know that.
May I respond?
Counselor, are you asking for a response or is it a comment?
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make a comment and clarify. I think it's important to know that we offered those funds from the city council to do that audit. The neighborhood rejected them and has been working with the administration. And I think the administration's presented a comprehensive, from 7 different department plan to address those concerns. And so I would encourage you to continue working with the administration's task force, because that funding will have to come from those departments that are working on that task force. But I do want to reiterate, if one of those things is not being handled, if they're not being responsive, as always, let us know so that we can follow up and advocate for you.
Please, and go ahead and email
go
my
ahead.
office as well. I know you said you sent a letter to me, but I usually defer to the counselors in which it's their district. So if you have any concerns, follow.
I directed it to your assistant.
Correct.
One point about the road safety audit. Nobody in administration or in council seems to know what a road safety audit under the auspices of the Federal Highway Administration is. And to me, that's very telling, that there has never been an unbiased, third-party, expert, multidisciplinary assessment of the problems on lead and coal.
Thank you, sir.
The
Our
chairman,
next speaker is Ms.
Thank
Nancy
you.
Montaño.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Raya.
Madam Chair, let me just interrupt for a second. I apologize, but just wanted to make sure you all know that we have asked the New Mexico Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, to conduct a safety audit in this corridor, simply to get a third party's perspective and to see what recommendations they would have. So we are working to try and address some other concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Rayal, and I did get analysis that was already being worked on, so I figured. So, Councilor Benton.
So, yeah, just to clarify, as I said before, I worked with Mr. Aguirre and the previous task force for lead and coal prior to the project that was funded by the Obama administration. And at that time, we did have the segments going all the way down to Broadway, at least addressed within the study and the recommendation of the task force. the part between I-25 and Broadway was not included in that project, and subsequently I did a minor project with limited funds compared to the part east of I-25. But I will say that at that time anyway, there was a lot of satisfaction with the plan that was presented. We did make requests, I did make individual requests with regard to the roadway, but that's just going on the record. But I did want to ask Mr. Rael, is there any reason, or do we have any reason to think that there are not issues west of Yale?
Madam President and Councilor Benton, let me have a DMD review that, and we'll get back with you some information, because this task force has been focused just in that area.
I understand. Yeah.
So we'll get back with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Montaño.
Good evening, Madam President and councilors. My name is Nancy Montaño. I'm a lifelong Albuquerque resident who grew up on the west side, and I'm here to show my support for funding for the Route 66 Visitor Center. Albuquerque has the longest stretch of Route 66, the Mother Road, and there have been few, if any, major ideas or investments on how best to capitalize on this unique asset. As you saw in the earlier presentation, the Visitor Center is a community-driven project led by the Southwest Alliance of Neighbors and the West Central Community Development Group, who have spent many years advocating for and securing public funding from state, county, and city government. I find it disconcerting that time after time, when the largely Hispanic West Side neighborhood residents and businesses and neighborhoods develop ideas and projects to help with the revitalization and redevelopment of West Central, City Hall and some members of City Council tend to dismiss these efforts, and in some cases actually become a stumbling block. When Swan and WCCG wanted to place arches along West Central, we had to go to Santa Fe to get capital dollars for the project. And today, you can see those iconic pictures of those arches everywhere. When the Southwest Mesa residents identified the need for a freestanding library, we went to Santa Fe again to get the initial dollars and advocated with our council at the time, Mr. Sanchez, and it was built. The same with the fire station at 57th and Central. We went and got the money. It seems every time we want a project for the West Side, we have to go to Santa Fe first before coming to the city. I urge council to vote for R197 as presented, and to remember I am a taxpayer, as are the West Side residents and businesses who have been involved and have participated in the development of the Visitor Center.
Thank you, Ms. Montaño.
Thank you.
Jerry Gallegos.
Good evening, Madam President and councilors. My name is Jerry Gallegos. I'm a resident of the southwest area Mesa of Albuquerque. I've lived there most of my life since coming back from the service. I just want to say that I want you guys to look at an icon that would be something not only beneficial to the southwest area residents, but also to the city of Albuquerque in bringing, hopefully, a better livelihood to the people who live in that part of town. I just heard Ms. Montaño say something that I was going to say, but I won't repeat it, because she had some ideas that I had in mind about trying to improve that part of town for many, many years, and I would just like your support on both that area and also the Crestview Bluff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gallegos. Michelle Luna, followed by Steve Ross, followed by Carl Holm.
Good evening, Madam President and City Councilors. My name is Michelle Luna, and I'm here on behalf of Commissioner Stephen Michael Quesada regarding the Route 66 Visitor Center. Homelessness, mental health, parks, and even a visitor center, the needs and wants of the community will always be a great balancing act. As elected officials, the community looks and depends on you to perform that important feat, weighing and balancing what is necessary with a quality of life that best serves the entire community and our visitors. Within the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County area, numerous initiatives and projects are already in motion that address the issues of homelessness and mental health. The city has launched a multifaceted effort that includes an emergency shelter and transitional housing, In collaboration with community partners, efforts are underway to address the immediate needs of the homelessness while working to build the city's first centrally located 24/7 year-round homeless shelter. The county recently approved and extended the behavioral tax that funds programs like the Resource Reentry Center, Mobile Crisis Teams, and ACES, a program that seeks to reduce adverse child experience to address the mental and behavioral needs of our community. The behavioral health programs just mentioned, by the way, are nationally recognized and awarded by the National Association of Counties for the innovation and effectiveness. Working together, the city and county offer green space or open space programs and parks that are unmatched in quality and upkeep. Last month, County Commission approved the purchase of Anderson Farms, the largest purchase of agricultural open space in its history. Up next is a new senior citizen center located at the South Valley Multipurpose Community Center. But what about the rest of the community? Where is the balance? Where is the quality of life? Route 66, also known as the Mother Road, is one of the Albuquerque's greatest claim to fame. The Route 66 Visitor Center would serve as the gateway to our great city and its introduction to the Great Southwest. Passers-by would continue their cruise west on Central, eat in our cafes, and shop in our stores. And citizens will have a new place to congregate and appreciate the spectacular views the city has to offer. The West Mesa is one of the fastest growing areas. The Route 66 Visitor Center will help to guide and develop that growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luna. Steve Ross, followed by Carl Holm. And then I just wanted to say it's a pleasure of the council, but we have only three additional people signed up to speak for public comment that will be at the end of the meeting. It's a pleasure of the council if they want to hear them now or at the end of the meeting. Okay, sounds good. I was hoping you would say that. Steve Ross?
Yes, and I'll be brief. Thank
All right.
you, President Pena.
That's even better.
Very good. And thank you to the council. Was here to speak tonight also on R190 and R191, and I'm representing the Apartment Association. So on behalf of the Apartment Association, we thank you for that vote, and we look forward to having further conversations as you've directed tonight and with Councilor Winter's point in terms of those discussions. So we're pleased with that, and we look forward to working with you as things go forward. So thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Holm, followed by Emilio Chavez, followed by Steve Baca, followed by Michael Pattengale.
Good evening, Ms. President Pena and members of the council. My name is Carl Holm. I'm the general manager of the DoubleTree Hotel downtown, and I'm also a board member of the Greater Albuquerque Hotel and Lodging Association, additionally known as GALA. This is a request to defer the council vote on O-1977, the mayor's proposal to refinance the existing lodgers tax bonds for sports-related tourism infrastructure. As a major stakeholder in the lodgers tax collections, I respectfully ask that this package be heard no earlier than November by the full council after your gathering of the hospitality industry's feedback and recommendations for the following reasons. We are concerned about the escalating requests for actual passage of legislation to use lodgers tax with no industry input from its key stakeholders or transparency. The examples of this are growing at an alarming pace. The most recent use of this tax dollars to purchase the one Albuquerque sculpture with leftover lodgers tax dollars. It's concerning. What about the sculpture helps Albuquerque generate room nights? That's what the lodgers tax funds are all about, generating tourism and conventions in the city. What about this sculpture helps us do that? Some of you in this chamber have rightfully questioned this expenditure, and others on as well on the mayor's proposal. We urge your leadership in this matter and encourage you to push for transparency and to do the right thing. We all want transparency. We all must protect the use of lodgers tax collections for the appropriate projects that are supported by hospitality experts as they drive more conventions and tourism and more dollars in our pockets, and is the key to our continued growth and success. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Emilio Chavez, followed by Stephen Baca, and then the final speaker will be Mr. Pattengale.
My fellow loved ones, what do humans as of right now covet the most? Is it family, friends, our possessions, money? Could it be recognition? No, above all else, humans want fear. This fear that we have built up and honed until it stands taller than any wall or tower imaginable. How do I know we love fear more than our own children? It is because we are so very willing to ruin their lives in service of an irrational fear of losing them. Every day we are choosing fear over freedom, freedom of movement, freedom of unity, freedom of love, freedom of thought. We must now go to the chosen promised land of truth and freedom. We have been searching outward for answers. Look inward. The answers and truth are inside of us. We are God, Goddess, light, love, fiat natura, nature as is. Love is the answer to all questions and problems. This is very simple. Only when we love ourselves may we truly begin to love. We desperately need this now so we may have a future, but all we do have is the now. Without the now, there is no future. Let us now come together to have a gathering of great minds and ideas, discussions and not debates. Think ancestors, unity and not division. We have major separation that comes with politics and religion. The way should be I am you as you are I. This is love, we are love. Let us get back to the arts and creativity for guidance. These politics and such are just a war of words which really mean nothing. Love shall overcome. The war is over if you want. Seek truth, seek experience, seek knowledge, seek purity. We all have been here long before the first morning, and so shall we be long after the last star falls from the sky. We are as we are not, therefore we are God. Clear your mind and really understand our connection to the universe. One breath, one word, one love. Let our riches come from life, love, and divinity. Positive vibrations. The lips of the righteous feed many. We must be gentle, wise, and dedicated to healing. I'm giving you this so that we may do our work better, help people who need help, and to know the secrets of the world where everything is known. This is a desire to illuminate and share something unprecedented. We are not only the root, but one of the many flowers on the stem. We are as real at this moment
Thank you,
as
Mr.
we have
Chavez.
faith to allow us to be.
You are a great
This
writer.
penmanship is signed with love.
So we have
Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Baca. And
Good
then the
evening, Council. I'm Stephen Baca, a citizen of Albuquerque and a city council candidate in the election this November. The response from the chairman of the New Mexico Sheriff's Association when I asked about the gun ordinances that are being proposed, his response is, it's incumbent upon us, the citizens, to stand up against the direct attacks on our Constitution. We must be defiant and not comply. And I completely agree with the sheriff, and we, the citizens, are glad to have elected law enforcement on our side. I advise the citizens of Albuquerque to simply not comply with these ordinances if passed. Bottom line, nothing is going to happen. Why? Because the city of Albuquerque is very kind to gangsters and criminals. The police department can't arrest for most misdemeanor crimes because of the McClendon settlement. The police department also cannot chase because of current policy. They are also afraid to use force because they're afraid of being investigated for doing their jobs. For felony crimes, judges will let you out 8 hours later. The district attorney will botch cases or give you an excellent plea deal so gangsters can continue to commit crimes. I recommend all citizens embrace their inner Billy the Kid and not comply with these proposed gun ordinances. The gangsters and criminals get away with it. Why can't you? The message is simple. I will not comply, and I advise every citizen in Albuquerque to simply not comply. Thank you.
Mr. Patton Gale, our final speaker of the evening. It looks like he left us. So I think with that, we will take a dinner break, and we should be back in about 40 to 45 minutes. Thank you.